Okay, as we begin our next hour, are there any questions of what we covered last time?
Pitanja na ono što smo prošlog časa radili.
The basic definition of typology, is that clear?
Definiciju tipologije, je li to jasno? Can you repeat once more the traditional definition of typology?
Yes.
Misliš onu koju je on spomenuo? The one you mentioned.
All right. Yes, it's a type is
Tip je
a person.
ličnost. Not yours, but traditional.
Traditional, yes. Yeah. Actually, the one that I gave you is what the traditional view is.
To je tradicionalna definicija koju on dao. What about this wrong one? They want to hear this wrong one.
The wrong one. Okay, that's not the traditional one.
To nije tradicionalno.
There's the traditional view. This is the one that Seventh-day Adventist pioneers used.
Tradicionalno je u stvari ono koju su koristili pioniri.
Then, around 1950,
Oko 1950. godine
there was a new definition that was introduced called the post-critical.
postoji postkritička definicija, nova definicija.
And this view, typology, is predictive.
Ova je proročki element, predviđanje ima, ova prva, tradicionalna.
Pointing forward.
Ukazuje na
For
budućnost.
this one, it's only retrospective.
A postkritička je retrospektivna. Znači.
This one, it's divine design.
Ova gore je pod Božjim rukom, dakle, Bog je dizajnirao.
This one is only parallel situations.
A ova dole je samo paralelna situacija, slična situacija.
So, yeah. So what I found was that the view that the Adventists were using is the one that is in the Bible. It's the definition that comes from these texts.
Dakle, definicija koju Ellen White koristi iz Biblije, ona proizilazi iz tih tekstova.
So as far as the definition goes, the exegesis confirmed the traditional understanding.
Egzegeza potvrđuje tradicionalno viđenje.
However, I did find some other things that I think are helpful to know how to control typology.
Ali postoji još jedna stvar koja je važna, način kako kontrolisati
And
tipologiju.
that's what I want to share with you now.
A sad bih to želeo da
Because too
Straight on.
often people use typology and it goes crazy.
Ponekad ljudi koriste tipologiju i polude.
They
U
find,
stvari tipologija poludi.
they find types everywhere in the Old Testament.
Oni pronalaze svugde tipologiju u Starom Zavetu.
And they apply it in very bizarre ways.
I na jedan bizaran način primenjuju.
And so I believe, based upon these characteristics that we have seen, there are internal controls that help us to know how to interpret typology
Ove osobine nam
correctly.
pomažu da shvatimo da postoji unutrašnja kontrola vezana za tipologiju.
And I'd like to suggest at least 3 controls.
Predlažem 3 ove kontrole.
The first one is an Old Testament control.
Prva je starozavetna kontrola.
First one, Old Testament.
Starozavetna kontrola.
And this control helps us to know which are the types, which persons, which events, which institutions are types.
Ova kontrola nam pomaže da shvatimo koje osobe, koje institucije, koji događaji su tipovi.
So it identifies the types.
Identifikacija tipa.
Now, many have said that you can only know if something is a type if the New Testament uses it as a type.
Mnogi kažu tip je samo ono što Novi Zavet koristi kao tip.
And so the control is in the New Testament.
Kontrola je onda samo u Novom Zavetu.
But I don't believe that's an adequate control.
Ali ja ne mislim da je to jedina adekvatna kontrola.
Because if you were a preacher in the 1st century AD,
Na primjer, da ste bili propovednik u 1. veku,
and you were trying to convince your audience to believe in Jesus,
pokušavate da ubedite vaše slušalce da veruju u Isusa.
and you showed the relationship between the Old Testament types and Jesus.
I pokazali ste odnos između starozavjetnog tipa i Isusa.
And your audience asked you,
A vaša publika vas pita,
how do you know that that is a type there in the Old Testament?
kako znaš da je to tip u Starom Zavjetu?
How do you know that that's pointing forward to Jesus?
Kako znaš da to ukazuje na Isusa?
And your answer would be,
A vaš odgovor?
you have to believe me because I say so, because I'm inspired.
Morate da mi verujete, ja sam nadahnut. Ja to kažem.
How much credibility would you have with your audience?
Koliko bi verovali oni vama?
I don't think you'd gain many converts.
Ne verujem da biste obraćenike dobili puno.
In other words, you have to be able to show that already in the Old Testament, those persons or events or institutions are types, are typological.
Morate u stvari da dokažete da već u Starom Zavjetu osobe, događaje jesu tipovi.
And so one of the most satisfying conclusions from that intense study of my life on typology was to see this Old Testament control.
Jedan od najzahvalnijih, ono što zadovoljava čovjeka je i za mene u iskustvu je što sam video u Starom Zavjetu tu kontrolu, prepoznavanje tipa.
In other words, for the sanctuary,
Drugim rečima za svetinju.
it's not enough to go to the book of Hebrews, to chapter 8,
Nije dovoljno ići u Jevrejima 8. glavu,
where Hebrews 8 tells us that the earthly sanctuary is a copy of the heavenly sanctuary.
Jevrejima 8 kaže da je zemaljska kopija nebeske svetinje.
Upon what basis does the author of Hebrews make that assertion?
Na kom temelju autor Jevrejima može to da tvrdi?
Does he say, believe it because I say so, because I'm inspired?
Da li on kaže, zato što sam ja nadahnut, zato mi verujte?
Is that what you find in Hebrews
Da
8?
li je to u Jevrejima 8 prisutno?
Let's look there and see.
Da pogledamo da li je to tamo.
Hebrews 8, and let's start in verse, why don't you read verses 3 through 5 for us? Could we have someone of you read verses 3 through 5?
Ajde neko od vas nek pročita od 3. do 5.
Read loud so everyone can hear.
Glasno je. Ivana, ja vidim da si otvorila. Ajde glasno. 3 do 5.
Svaki poglavar sveštenički postavlja da prinosi dare i žrtve, zato valja da i ovaj što ima što će prineti. Jer da je na zemlji ne bi bio sveštenik kad imaju sveštenici koji prinose dare po zakonu, koji služe obličju i sjenu nebeskih stvari, kao što bi rečeno Mojsiju kroz čaše skinju i da načini. Gledaj reči da načiniš sve po prilici koja ti je pokazana.
All right, here we find that the apostle, and I believe it was Paul, but you don't have to believe that if you don't choose to.
Ja verujem da je to Pavle, ali ne morate vi verovati da je autor Pavle ako nećete.
There's a debate on that, and I don't want to get into that
Postoji
debate.
debata i ja ne želim da ulazim u tu debatu.
But the apostle here says that the earthly sanctuary was a copy and a shadow of the heavenly sanctuary.
Ovdje kaže da je zemaljska bila obličje i sen.
Upon
Nebeski.
what basis does he make that claim?
Na kojoj osnovi on to izjavljuje?
Does he say, believe it because I say so?
Da li on to kaže verujte zato što sam ja to kazao?
No. How does he
Ne.
prove it?
Kako on to dokazuje? From the Old Testament.
That's right. He quotes from where?
On citira Stari Zavet. Exodus 25,
All right.
40.
So we have Exodus.
40, jel? 8 i 40. Ne, 9 i 40. Da, 25 40.
Exodus 25:40. It's also found in verse 9.
I u 9, da.
Yeah. Where Moses is told, see that you make everything according to the pattern shown you, the mountain.
Sve po prilici koja ti je pokazana na gore, to je citirano.
In the Septuagint that he's quoting from,
U Septuaginti, odakle on citira ovaj tekst,
and I should stop and underscore this, that
podlačim ovo sada.
this epistle is written not to Jews living in Israel.
Ova poslanica nije napisana Jevrejima u Izraelju.
Scholars are all agreed on this, that the ones he's writing to are Jews that don't know Hebrew.
Teolozi kažu da je ova poslanica pisana Jevrejima koji nisu znali jevrejski.
Their Bible is not the Hebrew Bible, it's the Greek Septuagint.
Njihova Biblija je bila Septuaginta, a ne jevrejska Biblija.
And so he quotes from the Septuagint
I on
throughout the
citira iz
epistle.
Septuaginta često.
And here, where it says, see that you make everything according to the pattern,
Ovdje gdje kaže, gledaj da način sve po prilici koja ti je
the Hebrew is tavnit,
jevrejski tavnit,
and the Septuagint
a Septuaginta
translation is tupas.
je tipos u Septuaginti.
It's back there in the Old
Prevod.
Testament also.
U Starom Zavetu tipos.
See that you make everything according to the tupas that was shown you in the mountain.
Vidi da način sve po kod nas prilici tipos koji je pokazana gore.
Now, what is implied by this word tupas, and in particular by this word tavnit that we find in the Hebrew?
Šta se podrazumeva pod reči tipos, posebno tavnit u jevrejskom?
What did Moses see in the mountain?
Šta je Mojsije video na gori?
The word tavnit means a copy
Tavnit znači kopiju
of an original
originala. Kopiju originala.
that also serves as a model
Koja je model
for another copy.
za još jednu kopiju. Model za drugu kopiju.
It goes two ways.
Ide u dva smera.
Ah, good. Thank you very much. Why don't you go ahead and pass those out right now? That would be helpful.
Mogu
So could
dva
someone
momka da nam
help us
pomognu
pass
da-
this out?
Šta si ti pitao, Slaviš? Okay. They ask for the verses for the thing that you erased.
That's what I'm going to show right now.
Dakle, sad će.
I'll put it back, but I want to be able to diagram it better.
Dijagram je bolje, sad će dijagram.
Here's an example that shows us how the dynamics of this word tavnit work.
Evo primjera koji pokazuje kako dinamika oko tavnit
2
funkcioniše.
Kings 16, verses 10 and 11.
Druga Carevima, 16. glava, 10. i 11. stih.
This is the story of Ahaz, the king of Judah,
To je priča o Ahazu, caru judejskom,
who went to Damascus to meet with King Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria.
koji je otišao u Damas da se susretne sa Tiglat-Paleserom.
You're
carem.
acquainted with Tiglath-Pileser, are you?
Čuli ste za Tiglat-Palesera?
Okay. Did you know that that was the name of Ellen White's dog
Da li ste znali da se tako zvao pas od Ellen White
when she lived in Australia?
dok je živjela u Australiji?
Ellen White had a great sense of humor.
Ona je imala baš smisla za humor.
Can't you see her calling, "Here, Tiglath-Pileser!
Dođi Tiglat-Paleseru. Možete
Here,
li da-
Tiggy!"
Tigi.
Okay. So Ahaz goes to visit this king up in Damascus, up in
Ahaz ide da se sretne sa carom u Damasku.
yes. And there he sees this altar,
I tamo vidi oltar.
and he wants to build one down in Jerusalem like it.
I on takav oltar želi da sagradi u Jerusalimu.
So first he sees the original,
Prvo vidi original.
Then it says he sent back to Jerusalem a pattern, a tavnit.
A onda kaže da je u Jerusalim poslao, da vidimo kako je naš prevod.
That's found right there at the end of verse 10.
Na kraju 11 sliku.
He sent to Uriah the smith the design of the altar and its tavnit,
Sliku je tavnit.
according to all its workmanship.
Posla sveštenik Uri sliku od tog oltara.
So he sends him this tavnit,
Poslao mu je sliku. Tavnit mu je poslao.
this copy.
Kopiju mu je poslao.
And this word tavnit is based on the verb bana, to build.
A reč tavnit je sazdan na glagolu bana, koji znači sagraditi.
And here it was probably a miniature model that was
Možda je to minijaturni model koji su gradili.
miniature model of the original.
Minijaturni model originala.
And then this was taken back to Jerusalem.
I onda je to odneseno nazad u Jerusalim.
And in Jerusalem they built the copy of the copy, if you please.
U Jerusalimu su napravili kopiju kopije, ako hoćete.
Here is the copy of the copy.
Kopija kopije, da.
And so we see that this tavnit functions in two directions. It is a copy of the original.
Tako da tavnit u stvari ukazuje na dvosmerno. Prvo na original,
also serves as a model
ali onda postaje i model
for another copy.
za još jednu kopiju.
And ultimately, this one in Jerusalem is the copy of the original.
A u krajnjem smislu ovaj u Jerusalimu je kopija onog originala gore.
And this is the same with the sanctuary.
Tako i sa svetinjom isto.
Moses in chapter 24 probably glimpsed a little bit of the heavenly sanctuary.
U onom 24. poglavlju, druge Mojsije je video mali uvid u nebesku svetinju.
We talked about that last week.
Prošle sedmice smo to.
And then in chapter 25, God says, I'm going to now, I want you to make a sanctuary on earth like the one in heaven.
Ali ja sad želim u 25. glavi, kaže Bog, da sagradiš na zemlji svetinju kao ovu na nebu.
But of course you can't make it exactly like the one in heaven,
Ali ne
because the
možeš-
one in heaven is too grand and glorious.
Naravno da napraviš tako slavnu i veliku kao što je na nebu.
And so I will give you a miniature model,
I zato ti dajem ja minijaturni model,
a tavnit,
tavnit,
on the mountain,
na gori.
and then you build the one on earth like the one that you see in the mountain.
I onda ćeš na zemlji sagraditi onakvu kakvu si video na gori.
So already at the very beginning of the mention of the sanctuary in Exodus,
Na samom početku spominjanja, dakle, svetinje u drugoj Mojsijevoj,
Exodus 25, verse 8,
8. stih,
God says, let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them.
neka mi načine svetinju da među njima nastavam.
The very next breath of God,
Sljedeći dah Božji.
the very next words that he gives.
Reči odmah posle toga.
Verse 9,
9. stih.
and see that you make everything according to the tavnit.
Vidi da napraviš sve po prilici. To je taj tavnit.
From the very beginning, he shows that the earthly sanctuary is a copy of the heavenly.
Od samog početka, vidite, on pokazuje da je zemaljska kopija nebeske.
Here is the control on
Tu je-
typology.
Kontrola tipologije, vidite.
God has shown that this particular institution, this sanctuary, is a type of the heavenly antitype.
Bog je pokazao, dakle, da je ta zemaljska svetinja tip antitipa.
We don't
Nebeske.
have to guess. We don't have to just wonder.
Ne nagađamo, ne čudimo se.
And the Apostle Paul, the writer of Hebrews, saw this clue, this indicator already in the Old Testament.
Dakle, autor Jevrejima poslanice je video taj pokazatelj još u Starom Zavetu.
Now, of course, this is not the only text that shows about the heavenly sanctuary in the Old Testament.
Ovo nije naravno jedini tekst koji pokazuje da je nebeska svetinja bila u
And
Starom
I
Zavetu.
gave you many of those last week,
Prošle sedmice sam vam dao mnogo tih tekstova.
especially those in the Psalms.
Posebno oni u psalmima.
You'll see a description for a few verses about the heavenly sanctuary,
Imate nekoliko stihova prvo o nebeskoj
and
svetinji,
then the description of the earthly one with the
a
same
onda o
liturgy going
zemaljskoj.
on.
Isto bogosluženje.
Or Isaiah 6, where he goes into
Ili
the
Isaija
earthly
6.
temple,
Ulazi u zemaljski hram
and then the vision goes up to the
i
heavenly
onda
temple.
vizija odlazi u nebeski hram.
So there's this linkage between the earth and the heaven throughout the Old Testament.
I ima u Starom Zavetu te veze između neba i zemlje.
But perhaps its clearest description is right here in Exodus 25.
Ali najjasniji opis je tu u 2. Mojsiju 25.
Now, if you could look at your handout on page 5 of your
Papire na
handout,
5. strani.
I've shown here how this principle works with regard to some other types in the Old Testament.
Pokazao sam ovdje kako ovaj princip deluje u nekim drugim tipovima Starog Zaveta.
The left-hand column are some of those Old Testament types.
Leva kolona su starozavetni tipovi.
Exodus, number 1,
2. Mojsijeva,
David, number 3,
Izlazak,
Jonah,
David,
number 4,
Jona, Ilija,
5, Elijah, Moses, Joshua,
Mojsije, Isus.
and I could have listed many more.
Moglo je biti tu još.
How do we know that those are types?
Kako znamo da su to tipovi?
I am arguing here, and I believe this is demonstratable from Scripture,
Dakle, dokazujemo ovdje i mislim da je to dokazivo iz pisma,
that the Old Testament already indicates which are the types.
da Stari Zavet sam ukazuje na to ko je tip. ili
In
šta
the
je
black box, I put the black box around the sanctuary. That's the one we're
Stavio
looking at
sam
here.
boldirano ovo oko svetinje.
But the same is true with the story of the Exodus, for example.
Ali isto je za izlazak.
Already in the Old Testament, God shows that there will be a new Exodus,
Već u Starom Zavetu Bog je pokazao da će biti novi izlazak.
centered in the Messiah.
Oko Mesije se vrti taj novi
And I've
izlazak.
given some of those references
I
there.
dao sam tekstove.
And then the New Testament simply announces what the Old Testament has already indicated.
A Novi Zavet naprosto objavljuje šta Stari već podrazumeva.
A simple one to see is number 6 for Moses.
Da vidimo 6. za Mojsija.
Moses himself is told by God that he is a type of the Messiah.
Mojsije je sam rekao da je tip Mesije.
Deuteronomy 18, verses 15 to 19,
5. Mojsijeva 18. glava.
where Moses indicates that God will raise up a prophet like unto me.
Kada Mojsije kaže podići će vam Bog proroka kao što sam ja.
And so I'd like to suggest that the first control on typology is already there in the Old Testament.
Prva kontrola tipologije je već tu u Starom Zavetu.
Don't start inventing types just where you see these apparent parallels.
Nemojte da izmišljate tipove samo zbog tih paralela.
But look for indicators already in the Old Testament text that there's a type.
Pogledajte u pokazatelje da je u Starom Zavetu već tip prisutan.
Now, the New Testament is only a representative list of types.
Novi Zavet je samo jedna predstavnička lista, da se tako izrazim, tipova.
It doesn't have them all.
It doesn't have-
It does not have all the types mentioned in the New
Nema
Testament.
sve tipove spomenute u
example,
Starom Zavetu.
Joseph.
Na primjer, Josif.
Ellen White specifically says Joseph was a type of Christ.
Ellen White kaže Josif je bio tip Hrista.
But you don't find that mentioned in the New Testament.
Ali nemate to u Novom Zavetu.
Is Ellen White inventing this?
Da li ona to izmislila, Ellen White?
No, you go to Genesis 49,
Ako odete u 1. Mojsiju 49,
the last blessing of Jacob regarding his 12
poslednji
sons.
blagoslov Jakova na 12 sinovima.
And you see that the language of
Kad već ideš donesi vode,
describing Joseph is the language of the coming Messiah.
da je to jezik koji ukazuje na dolazećeg Mesiju, jezik koji se odnosi na Josifa.
And so Ellen White is simply recognizing what the Old Testament has already pointed out.
Ellen White je prepoznala ono što je Stari Zavet već istakao.
And there may be other types that we have not yet seen.
Postoji možda još neki tipovi koje nismo još ni videli.
But don't tell me something's a type unless you show me an Old Testament control that indicates that it's a type.
Ali nemojte tvrditi da je nešto tip ako nema te kontrole u Starom Zavetu.
So this is the Old Testament control.
To je starozavetna kontrola.
Now I should add that there are some New Testament types.
Moram da dodam i na ovo da postoje neki novozavetni tipovi.
The most notable example is the destruction of Jerusalem
Razorenje Jerusalima je upečatljiv primjer.
in Matthew 24.
Matej 24.
The first half, Jesus describes the destruction of Jerusalem.
Prvu polovinu Isus opisuje u
The
poglavlju razorenje
second
Jerusalima.
half of the chapter,
A
he
drugu polovinu-
uses the same language,
Isti jezik koristi,
the same signs
iste znake
to point to the end of the world.
da ukaže na kraj sveta.
And so Jesus is making clear that the destruction of Jerusalem is a New Testament type of the end of the world.
Isus dakle razjašnjava da je razorenje Jerusalima novozavetni tip uništenja kraja sveta.
Most of the time we think of the type in the Old Testament and the antitype in the New.
Obično razmišljamo iz starog u novi zavet, tip, ta veza.
But sometimes the type is in the New and the antitype is later in the end of
Ponekad je
history.
tip u novom zavetu, antitip kasnije.
Okay, any question about that principle?
Pitanje na ovaj princip.
Postoji još neki tekst kao što je ovaj drugoj carevima 16:10.
Text in 2 Kings 16.
Right.
Is that the only text about Tavnit?
No, there's 20 texts that have
20
Tavnit.
ih ima.
Yes.
Can we
And-
get two more?
I can give you those. Unfortunately, I left my notes on Tavnit up in my room,
Ostavio sam gore u sobi
and so I'm lecturing from my memory here.
papire o Tavnitu, daću vam tekstove, sad je iz sećanja predavanja.
And I can give you the others if you wish later.
Daću vam kasnije ostale tekstove.
But in each one of those, it's clear that the Tavnit is not the original, it's a copy of another
Jasno
original.
je u svima da je svim tim tekstom da Tavnit nije original, da je to kopija originala.
Yeah. But, and so I'm not going to lecture those other because I don't want people to think they have to know those.
Neću da predajem te tekstove jer onda ljudi misle moramo da naučimo to.
But for the student who wants to go further, I will be happy to
Ali
give
za
you those.
studenta koji hoće da kopa dublje, bit ću sretan da im
So
da
I'll
dam.
get those at the next break and we will,
Na sljedeći pauzi ću doneti.
in fact, another 3 minutes, we will take the next break.
Za 3 minuta u stvari mi imamo tu pauzu.
So maybe if there's one more question or
Ako
so,
ima pitanja,
and then I will, during the break, go and get those other texts. I can write them on the board here.
i ja ću doneti u toku pauze te ostatak tih tekstova.
Anything else?
Još nešto?
I call this middle column, this Tavnit, I call it the missing link,
Ja ovaj Tavnit nazivam nedostajućom karikom.
because when I have read the books that I have read on typology, they do not emphasize this Old Testament control.
Jer knjige koje sam čitao o tipologiji ne naglašavaju ovu starozavetnu kontrolu.
And therefore, they say, many say, typology is just, it's just loose. It's just, impossible to no, what they say is that it is not exegesis.
Zato oni kažu da je tipologija pomalo labava i kažu i da nije to egzegeza.
It's eisegesis.
To je aizegeza. Da nije egzegeza, da, to je aizegeza.
Because it's the New Testament reading back into the Old something that's not there.
To je učitavanje Novog Zaveta u stari, tamo gde ga ne vidi stari.
But what I say is, no, it's not eisegesis, it's exegesis.
To nije aizegeza, to je egzegeza.
Because the Old Testament has already indicated this is a type.
Jer Stari Zavet je već ukazao na to. To je tip.
And the New Testament then simply recognizes what the Old Testament has already pointed out.
A Novi prepoznaje samo ono što je Stari već istakao.
So it is the difference between legitimate interpretation and illegitimate interpretation to recognize this control.
Postoji razlika između legitimnog tumačenja ovog nelegitimnog.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break here.
10 minuta pauze.